at the end of the day, what is all this equipment? It's just a tool in order to accrue tension and get stronger with your muscular system. So I think that you should be using machines as well as barbells and dumbbells and everything that you have in your arsenal that you can use, because why not? And everything has a place, especially machines, which I used to not think. Today's episode is going to be all about my top 3 favorite chest exercises. We're going to be starting off with 3 sets of the incline dumbbell bench press, and then 3 sets of a certain chest press machine, and then 3 sets of a certain fly variation of the cable variety. Along the way, I'm going to be describing why they are my favorite. And by the way, it's just my current favorite. It is subject to change, but I'll be breaking down why I think they are so great, the strengths, the weaknesses, and so on. So stay tuned for this one. Let's get into it. The first exercise is a incline bench press using dumbbells, and it's specifically the one where it's like a 30-degree height on the incline. So it's not quite up to a 45, it's not quite down to flat, but kind of in that 15 to 30 degree range. And the reason why I prefer this angle over the other ones is because you are hitting the full chest, but you're kind of emphasizing the upper chest. All has to do with pressing angles and where you're pressing from. So if you're more upright like this and then you're pressing, that's going to be purely the clavicular or upper portion of the chest, and then just a little bit of front delt and side delt. Versus when I'm all the way down like this, I'm getting the full picture here, but I'm emphasizing the clavicular head, which for me is more important, and I think that people struggle to train that the most. Now you're probably wondering, why a dumbbell? Why am I not using a barbell? Why am I not using a Smith machine? Why not a machine, for example? Well, I have some very specific reasons why I like to use a dumbbell. And first of all, you're not fixed. So you can use one hand in isolation of each other. So with a barbell, you're just using 2 hands and you're fixed, and there's no wiggle room for your individualized anatomy and biomechanics to kind of let loose and do its thing. Versus when you have a dumbbell, you have one in each hand. So you're more so being able to use your body how your body actually wants to move, instead of being limited by how the piece of equipment wants you to move. So that's number 1. But number 2, since you don't have a limiting surface that will stop your range of motion, you can go as far down as your body will allow. Now, maybe you don't have the most flexibility in this range of motion and you can't actually go that far. So maybe a barbell versus a dumbbell wouldn't actually achieve less range of motion. And in that case, maybe a barbell is fine for you, or an equivalent exercise like that. But I still think that practicing that full range of motion with a dumbbell is of great importance, because ultimately you want to be able to get as far down as you possibly can. And if you can't get down very far, then I think that you should work on that aspect, because the chest really, really succeeds when it is in that lengthened position under load, and it's the hardest part of the range of motion. This is where you want to be for the most part, most of the time. And dumbbells do a really, really great job of allowing you to sink all the way down, explode all the way up, and be free in your range of motion. For instance, you can adduct the arm across the body a little bit, versus a barbell, you're just going straight up and down. And one of the functions of the chest is that adduction. So I think that it's very important. Additionally, this is also an exercise which you can do without fear. With a barbell bench press of any sort, you typically need a spotter, or you need to be able to know how to bail without the safeties. But that can be a huge concern, especially as you get stronger. And if you're going solo without a gym partner, it can kind of put you out when you always have to ask for a spot to be safe. So I think that dumbbells are a great option because you can bail at any time, whether it feels funky or you hit failure or whatever else. You can just bail, drop the weight, and you're totally fine. And also, everybody has access to this that has a gym membership. You may not have access to this in your home, of course, but if you have a gym membership, I guarantee that there's dumbbells and a bench that can adjust. So anybody can really use it. It's very versatile. It hits the whole chest. It's like not scary. You don't have to worry about hurting yourself really, unless you are just a jackass with the weights, which we all can be sometimes, I know. And then on top of that, it hits all of the functions of the chest in spades, really, and you get that deep stretch and everything like we really want. The chest press machine is a fantastic exercise because it has everything that a dumbbell incline bench press does not. For example, it is much more stable. You don't have as much range of motion to really like free motion with your joints. You can't be flip-flopping all around the place. So you're getting that huge sense of stability and sacrificing that mobility, which is, it's the other side of the coin, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. In fact, I think it's a very great thing for what we are trying to achieve here, which is kind of like icing on the cake. It's to add in some more volume without having a huge amount of fatigue really weighing you down and messing with your recoverability. So it's a way that you can accrue some more tension on your chest fibers without overdoing it and overtraining in the end run. So that's why I really like a chest press. And it's really highlighted when you are going slow and controlled. You really want to be feeling the tension upon your chest. And I kind of like doing it in like the moderate to high rep range, maybe like 10 to 15, 8 to 15 or so. You know, it's not an exact science, but I just kind of like to crank it out and really feel the tension in my chest and try and accrue that time under tension with a moderate high rep range at a kind of like moderate weight. What really makes a great chest press machine is something that plays to its strengths, the strength of the exercise. So you want a solid back support, you want a solid seat to be able to sit, probably have it be adjustable so that you can find the right placement of your elbows in relation to how you're pressing. And then additionally, I like one that has a little bit of adduction, so actually a converging press so that you really get a peak contraction. And then taking this a step further, I would like one that goes back really far so you can get that deep stretch as well. This machine isn't really ideal, but it's the best one for my needs right now at this particular gym. My only complaint about this particular machine is that I'm not getting that complete stretch. So I'm actually kind of I'm kind of like rounding my back out like this. So I get a deeper range of motion with my arm. And that will actually create a more lengthened position for the chest. But if I were to be totally flat, I'd be stopped a little bit shy, which is not ideal. So I'm having to do this. So if you can find a chest press machine which checks off all those boxes, then you found yourself a winner for sure. I'll remind you one more time, you want a good base of support, a good back support. You want to be able to get that full range of motion, and then you want adduction of the arm so it's converging across. That would be really ideal if I were to pick all of the prime function. When I was first getting into lifting, everyone was really adverse to using machines. Everybody preached like barbell movements this, barbell movements that. Oh, you have to be doing the squat, bench, and deadlift, or else you're not going to grow, at least as a natural lifter. And I think the fitness industry has changed its tune, and I especially have changed my tune. I used to be very, very dogmatic in my thinking, and I would only be doing, what I just mentioned, the squat, bench, and deadlift, with some occasional other exercises, but I would never, ever touch machines, much to my dismay. I think that it's a huge mistake not to take advantage of machines. They're not just for older people like, the stereotype would have you think. They are for everybody. And, at the end of the day, what is all this equipment? It's just a tool in order to accrue tension and get stronger with your muscular system. So I think that you should be using machines as well as barbells and dumbbells and everything that you have in your arsenal that you can use, because why not? And everything has a place, especially machines, which I used to not think. Now I think the machines are great for what they are. They're stable. They can provide a ton of tension on the muscles without totally killing you. And they can be a great tool for hypertrophy if you use them correctly. And how I would personally use them is kind of later. You either want to use them as like a pre-exhaust movement if you're really, really strong. But for the vast majority of people, myself included, I use it later on for the icing on the cake little supplement like I talked about previously. The last exercise on my list is a chest fly, and chest flies come in all shapes and sizes, just like machine bench presses. So how do you kind of differentiate between the bad ones and the good ones? Well, it comes down to the same fundamental science that I was referencing earlier. You really want a good time under tension with some great stability and a full range of motion. You want to hit those three variables if you can. And I am choosing to do a seated fly variation, only my wingspan is too great and these handles are not adjustable. So I am providing a back support in order to kind of bring my back a little bit further out so that the range of motion is greater. So if you guys can make any modifications like this, then I think that is a great idea. And the reason why I'm choosing this fly variation among all the others that I could choose, and I could choose a ton. You could do a pec deck machine, you could do any angle of dumbbell flies or standing free motion cable flies, and I'm sure that the list goes on. But I'm choosing this variation because with cables you get a constant tension, versus if you were to do like dumbbells or something, once your limbs are stacked above you, there would be no more tension upon the chest. Your limbs would be stacked and it would just be supporting the load. So there'd be no work on your muscular system, which is absolutely not what we want. We want that constant tension. So by having cables, you're inherently getting that constant tension effect. But why am I doing it seated? Well, seated checks off that second box of being a more stable exercise. Since I'm seated and I have back support, I'm more locked in a place, so I can just be focusing on the chest. And a stronger muscle is a more stable one as well. And then lastly, I'm just getting that full range of motion because of this. So I'm checking off all the boxes in this regard. While proper form on an exercise like this, any chest fly exercise may seem super simple in practice and that you're doing it all right, I can almost guarantee that there's some tweaks that you could make, and I'm sure there's some tweaks that I could make in the long run as well. So basically, the cues that I'm using is I want no elbow flexion or extension. My elbows should stay in the same place as they start with. I don't care if they're fully extended out or kind of flexed in. Though more extended is probably better because it's putting more tension on the chest, since where the weight actually attaches is further away from the body. So you're actually getting a deeper stretch and some more tension. But the point still remains, don't do any of this. I don't want to see any of this during your fly movements, because that's going to automatically involve the biceps and the triceps to some degree. And we're trying to limit those. This is an isolation lift for a reason, guys. So try and keep that in the same spots. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight, especially depending on the machine or whatever you're working with. It may change, but just keep it in the same place the whole time. Additionally, when you're doing that adduction, try and go past the point to the point where you're getting the strongest contraction you possibly can. For me, it's about right here. So I'm going like just past to right here, and kind of rotating the arms to prevent some muscle imbalances. Even though it would be so tiny, it just feels better to rotate, in my opinion. Now, of course, depending on the fly movement that you end up choosing, because I know that not everybody has access to the specific one, you may be limited in that. So I encourage you guys to find the fly movements that can really ensure that adduction and actually getting the full range of motion. I know that dumbbells, it's pretty damn hard to do so, and with a pec deck machine, you'd have to do unilateral in order for that to happen. So if you have to do that, then I think that it is worth it. But then beyond that, just trying to focus on your chest. Maybe having your palms a little bit up could help you just work on the chest a little bit more as well. But overall, I think that those are really the heavy hitters. If you do choose to implement these specific exercises, or you choose to follow my advice when it comes to kind of like the boundaries in which the exercises exist, and maybe you decide to kind of step out of them, maybe you do like 45-degree dumbbell bench press, or a different version of a plate loaded machine press or whatever, or you do the pec deck machine unilaterally instead of this. As long as you're following the variables, I think that you're golden. But if you do decide to mix it up, I would recommend this type of exercise ordering for the vast majority of people. That is, starting with the free weight exercise, moving on to the more stable machine exercise, and then finishing off with the isolatory movement of the chest fly. I think that is a great exercise ordering, and I do believe the exercise order is very, very important. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It has been all about my top 3 favorite chest builders, and I hope that you guys took something out of it, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.